Hey guys, it's your boy Knicks Banks coming back at it again this week with another video. This time we're talking about the Knicks trading cap space for assets. All right, I'm going to tell you guys why I think it's a good idea. I know a lot of you guys might be against it. Bless up. If one thing's for sure, Knicks fans are not dumb. All right, there's a lot of smart Knicks fans on my comments, and a lot of you guys want to be very prudent when it comes to maintaining cap space. That makes sense, right? It makes sense to want to maintain flexibility in order to make future moves and in order to, be able to pick players that you might need and not get caught up in situations like a lot of these teams are caught up in right now, right? You look at the Sixers signing Al Horford to that, big contract and really not needing him at all. That really held them back. Okay, so that makes sense, wanting to maintain cap space. I understand why people are afraid to take in a big contract. Plus, a lot of you guys feel like if we take in this big contract, which is going to be most likely this veteran that's not really a part of our future plan, then it's just another Knicks move. It's just us getting another old guy to make it sound good, and he's not going to be able to do what we need him to do on the court. Again, that's not true, all right? We're looking at a team that has not been competitive in their own conference, not even just in the league, but in their own conference in how many years? And hasn't been consistently competitive in like 2 decades, all right? So you need to start making moves so the Knicks aren't a laughing stock. I mean, literally, players don't want to come here. They love the city, they could love the garden, they could love the fans, whatever. But when you have the fact that the Knicks are looked at as a laughing stock of the league because we haven't really won much and haven't really been about winning for a long time, plus you add the fact that the media is for sure going to harp on these players. So for them, it's like, is this even a worthwhile move? 9 times out of 10, it's not. It's not worthwhile for them. They can go somewhere else, still get stardom, and, even though if they were in New York, the contract opportunities, the deals would literally be on the table consistently. But it's not worth it. It's not worth being under all that pressure, under all that scrutiny, right? So it's important that we prioritize building this team into a competitive team. It's important that we prioritize developing our players as well, right? So I'm not saying just go sign, go trade for a bunch of vets that might make us somewhat competitive for, 1 season or 2 and then we fall off. We have a lot of draft picks over the next couple years. There are teams right now with even more draft picks, like OKC, right? So it's not unreasonable to say we can take on a big contract in order to get a veteran player, right? Because this is someone that's not going to push them over the hump. So they need that flexibility to get the player that they need to push them over the hump. But we get a veteran who's going to be someone who's a leader on the court, who's a leader in the locker room for our young guys. Someone that they can look up to. 2, you can have the opportunity to really have leverage that the Knicks haven't had in a while. Because, again, we are not a hot spot for talent right now. We're not somewhere where a lot of talented players want to come. So literally us having this cap space, while the rest of the league really doesn't have cap space, especially with this whole COVID thing, we finally have a top tier asset. Something we haven't really had since like Melo was in his prime here. And our cap space is something that we can get back pretty easily, right? I mean, you just don't sign any dumb contracts after you take on that big contract. and you take on that big contract, you don't take on a contract that's going to be, 5 years left on the contract. I mean, 2 to 3 years, that's not bad, right? Especially considering if the Knicks were to trade Julius Randle for a big contract and a blue chip player and or a first round draft pick, that's not a bad move, all right? If you think about it, even if it's a really big contract, at most you're tying up $20 million that you didn't already have tied up in Julius Randle. 22 million, something around that. So if the Knicks don't do anything dumb, right, they'd have about another possibly 20 million in free agency to play around with, right? And if you're really worried about flexibility, you do what they did recently and just sign a bunch of 1-year deals with team options or something like that, So you make sure that you have that flexibility for 2020, you make sure you have that flexibility for 2021, like everyone's talking about, if you feel like you can make a play in that free agency. But if you look at any of the rumors, right? You look at Mike Conley, you look at Chris Paul, any of those guys, right? It's not about the rumor. It's about what the strategy is. I want to come on this channel to discuss the strategy with you guys. I don't necessarily care about the rumors. I'm not a Knicks insider. I can't tell you who has the most pull in the front office. I can't tell you guys any of that. What I can do is I can bring my understanding of the game and just have a conversation with you guys. You know what I mean? I feel like this making a move using your cap space right now, that's the strongest play that the Knicks have, because we have the most cap space, right? We have the biggest number. We have the biggest number of dollars just standing there, right? So we have the best asset as far as cap space goes. That's like if you got LeBron. There's not a person in the league right now that won't say, hey, I really don't even like cap space right now. Nah, that's gonna slow us down. Nah, man, you got all this cap space. Teams are gonna want to make a move, especially considering there's so many teams right now that are tied up. There's so many teams that are tied up right now, man. I guarantee you, if you go to talk to almost any team in the league right now, you can make a move. You can make something happen without a doubt. Like, look at the Sixers, right? Let's say they don't want to blow up their tandem with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. You could trade for either Tobias if they're willing to let go of Tobias, or you could trade for Al Horford. Now look, I don't really want Al Horford on the Knicks like that. I mean, I think he's a good vet. He was a really good player defensively, offensively very versatile, and he's played in tons of different offensive schemes, defensive schemes. So he's a well-versed vet. He's a smart basketball player. So that's the kind of vet you want. But do I think he's going to push us over the hump considering his age? No. But what I will tell you is he's a good player, and he's someone that would be good for Mitch to be around. And even if you sign him to a big contract, let's say you take on his contract. His contract has, after this season, 2 seasons left at $26.5 million. If you take that, is it a hit? Yeah. Is it the biggest hit? Nah, it's not. The Knicks have potentially $40 million in cap space. Potentially, right? Roughly around there. Not including if we were to trade Julius Randle or make, several other moves that the team could make, right? If you trade Julius Randle for Al Horford, you basically took no hit. Basically. Now, they'd have to give us back an asset, right? Or rather, that's probably not the move they really want to make. So let's say we trade them, somebody else. I don't know. We do a sign and trade of a cheap, shooter or something, because that's what they need. or we, do something to that extent, then we do that. Okay, yeah, we got to bite the bullet for the next 2 seasons. That's okay, though. You have now the opportunity. One, you have a vet, a former all-star, really someone who was, throughout most of his career, one of the most undervalued players in the NBA because he was so versatile. He could facilitate, he could play make, he could rebound, defend, he could take it down low, he could take, a couple steps out, shoot the Jimmy, you know what I mean? The versatile player. That's what you want Mitch to be ultimately, right? He's showing all these handles in the off season. We want to see that in game. We want to see him be comfortable putting the ball on the floor, passing the ball, being a key in the offense, which I think he potentially could be. I think the Knicks haven't looked to start turning that cog, but I think with the coaches that they've signed, I think that's something they're gonna look to do. And having a vet like Al Horford, who has already done that, who's been doing that, I think that helps, right? And let's say you get back another young player or a draft pick or whatever, it's not a bad move. It's not a bad move. I know a lot of you guys are cringing right now, but if you really think about it, it's not a bad move. A lot of you guys feel like Julius Randle, he's this young guy with this potential, and I agree with you. I think he has tons of potential, right? Julius Randle he's a bully. Most players can't really match up to him. Either they're too big and slow, or they're too small and weak. He basically bullies everybody out the way, and if you're too big and he can't bully you, he's quicker than you. My issue with Randle is his basketball IQ. We look at what he did with the Pelicans. That was under completely different pretenses. Yes, the coaching staff can make changes and give him a better opportunity than what he had this last year, right? But I feel like if you could flip him into a couple different assets, there's no reason to not look at what you could potentially get. I'm not completely anti-Randle. I know there's some of you guys in here that are like, yo, get rid of Randle right now. I hate him, right? Because I see that there is definitely potential there, right? He is someone who could potentially develop into, a better player. If he just keeps his head up, Randle is a monster. If he just kept his head up. But when he puts his head down and he goes into freaking 5 defenders, it's not only is it hard for us to watch, but it's demoralizing to the team, right? RJ does not like that. Mitch does not like that. None of our young players like that. That's not something that players want to play with. That's not something players want to see. All right? Nobody wants to see this dude, run through 5 dudes. He gets through 4 of them, and then he meets the center, and he tries to push off and throw up a weird layup, and he doesn't make it because he just had to try to bully his way through 5 people instead of passing the ball out. Now, he was one of, if not the most productive player that we had this last season, but like I said, if you can flip him into some assets that you feel you can better utilize, right? And that's the front office's decision. That's the coaching staff's decision. Then you do that. You do whatever makes sense for the team. If you feel like you can turn him around and you can make him move the ball, right? If you believe in his potential, you keep him. If you believe in his potential but believe that you can make a move, that you can get back more assets, then you do that, right? At the end of the day, it's about leveraging what you have. So when we talk about bringing this back to cap space, if you're afraid to move your cap space, then it's not an asset. It's not an asset unless it helps you with your leverage. But if you're afraid to leverage it, then it's not an asset. Then what is the cap space for? If we're not going to spend it, that's why I'm saying we need to look at trading, our cap space for assets. I mean, look at teams like the Phoenix Suns. Now there's rumors of them trading Kelly Oubre Jr. He's a really good player. He's 3-and-D, freak athleticism. You know, would be a great fit in our starting lineup, and has been a great fit for them. But now there's rumors of, you know, him having to be traded because they need cap space. Now, guess what? The Knicks have cap space. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You know, you can't be afraid to trade your cap space for an asset. You can't be afraid to take that hit sometimes, you know? It's like how Kobe said, you miss 100% of the shots that you never took. I think using our cap space, we can really make a move, try to get some assets that can help better our young guys. It's not going to be, you know, fair to RJ or fair to Mitch or fair to any of our other young guys if we have no shooters. Because guess what? They all by default end up becoming like Randle, right? I mean, Randle was on an extreme level, but I mean in the sense that when they drive in, who are they going to kick out to? Because there's no shooters. There's no threat from outside. So they can literally close in. And that's part of the reason why RJ was inefficient. You know, RJ had actually statistically one of the best rookie seasons. You know, if you look at, you know, his just his regular statistics. Advanced statistics tell a different story. But this is why statistics are different from basketball, right? Statistics are important. I always bring up statistics. I always show you guys statistics. But you can't just say the kid is a poor finisher. I mean, could he improve his finishing? Yeah. But I don't think he's at the bottom of the league level when it comes to his finishing. He literally just has no shooters. Every time he's going to the rim, he's fighting 2+ defenders. So can you really say he's a poor finisher? No, because we have no idea. We have no idea what it's like for him to be able to go to the rim and not have tons of help defenders come. Right? It's not like we had a bunch of motion in our offense either. It's not like, okay, RJ slashing, so he knows he can, you know, pull a Steve Nash and, you know, go around the paint. And then, you know, he knows the slasher is going to come through and he's going to dump the ball off. No, we had barely any motion in our offense, it felt like. And we have no shooting. So it was literally just, okay, who's going to take a turn trying to, you know, break the wall with their head? You know what I mean? Sometimes it was drywall. Sometimes it was brick. All right. So I want to thank you guys for checking out this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You know, go in the comments, let me know what you think, how you guys feel about the cap space situation, what kind of trades you guys want to see, what kind of trades you guys don't want to see. Bless up.